I want to show you a model. It's called the prisoner's dilemma, and I think it might be one of the most honest descriptions of the human condition ever constructed. Here's the setup. Two people are held separately. They can't communicate. Each has a choice: cooperate with the other or betray them. And the outcomes work like this. If both cooperate, both get a small penalty, manageable, bearable, the best joint outcome available. If one betrays while the other cooperates, the betrayer goes free. The cooperator gets the worst possible outcome, punished for their trust. If both betray, both get a heavy penalty, not as bad as being the lone cooperator, but far worse than if they both cooperated. Now, here's the tragedy. If you're a rational person sitting in that room and you have no way of knowing what the other person will do, the logical move is always to betray. Because if they cooperate and you betray, you win. And if they betray and you cooperate, you suffer alone. Betrayal protects you in every scenario. The problem is, the other person is running exactly the same logic. So, two rational people, each making the individually correct decision, end up at the worst collective outcome. Both betraying, both suffering more than they needed to, both arriving at a result neither of them actually wanted. Nobody chose the bad outcome. Everyone's logic led there anyway. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Because this isn't just a thought experiment. This is the architecture of arms races, of price wars, of environmental destruction, of political gridlock, of marriages that ended not in cruelty, but in the slow accumulation of self-protective decisions that made perfect individual sense and destroyed everything collectively. This is what fear does to cooperation. It doesn't need malice. It doesn't need villains. It just needs two people who are afraid of being the one who trusted and got burned. And the perfectly logical result is that everyone burns together. But here's what I find extraordinary. In the 1980s, a political scientist named Robert Axelrod ran a series of tournaments. He invited experts from across disciplines, mathematicians, psychologists, economists, game theorists, to submit strategies for repeated rounds of the prisoner's dilemma. Not one interaction, hundreds, against every other strategy submitted. The winner in tournament after tournament was the simplest strategy anyone submitted. It was called tit for tat, and it had 4 rules. Start by cooperating, always. Mirror whatever the other player did last round. Never be the first to betray. And occasionally forgive, even after betrayal. Try cooperating again. That's it. The most mathematically successful strategy ever tested against every variation of fear, aggression, manipulation, and pure self-interest. Cooperate first, respond in kind, never initiate betrayal, and forgive. Think about what that means. The winning move in a world architected by fear, the strategy that outperforms every cynical, self-protected, rational calculation, is to lead with trust, to mirror cooperation when you find it, to refuse to be the first aggressor, and to keep believing, even after being burned, that cooperation is possible. That is not naivety. That is the most rigorous, battle-tested, mathematically proven position available. The Tao Te Ching says, the sage does not compete, and therefore No one can compete with the sage. There is a version of that goes beyond non-contention. It's the person who has simply decided as a way of being to cooperate first, every time. Not because they're certain it will be reciprocated, but because it's who they are. You cannot run the prisoner's dilemma against someone who has stepped out of the game. And here's what I want you to hold as we come toward the end of this series. The world feels like a place of mutual defection right now. Everywhere you look, politically, culturally, internationally, the logic of self-protection is winning. Everyone betraying because they're afraid of being the one who trusted first. Everyone arriving at the outcome nobody wanted. But Axelrod's tournament showed something else, something quietly revolutionary. In repeated interactions, in communities, in relationships, in any context where people encounter each other more than once, cooperative strategies spread. They outcompete defection over time. Not because people become selfless, but because cooperation works better, and given enough repetitions, enough interactions, enough chances to see the evidence, even the defectors start to learn. The tide turns, not all at once. One interaction at a time. One nod on a road. Same blood,